Hey, everybody. Welcome to Brownstone's Best Business Review. I'm Paulette. I'm a part of Brownstone Worldwide, and you're in the Brownstone Worldwide studios. This is a special edition of Brownstone's Best Business Review. As you guys know, we have been celebrating the entire month of November, 50 years of hip hop. And tonight, we are joined by one of those who was a part and is still a part of hip hop itself, with tons of Grammys and other awards to his name and to their name. We are talking to Speech of Arrested Development. I'm going to go ahead and share that first album cover with you guys really quick, and then we're going to do a quick introduction and get this brother up here so we can get an opportunity to talk directly to him. You guys know him as Speech, the part, the heart, the head of Arrested Development, true hip-hop trailblazers. Since 1991, Arrested Development has been cultural champions of consciousness and empowerment across the planet. Their representation of eclectic and vibrant African sounds and clothing has produced a unique clash of rhythms and style that continue to contrast the expected look and sound of hip-hop culture. Arrested Development have been supporters of important groups and movements like the National Coalition of the Homeless and the African National Congress, or the ANC. With numerous album releases and world tours, Arrested Development has been groundbreaking in hip-hop culture. Their album, 3 Years, 5 Months, and 2 Days in the Life of, earned them 2 Grammy Awards for Best New Artist and Best Rap Single, Tennessee, 2 MTV Awards, and a Soul Train Music Award, and of course, the NAACP Image Award. Rolling Stone magazine named this group Band of the Year in 1992. Now, this band actually continues to move forward with amazing albums and tours. They're continuing to tour after all of these years. You guys, I'm going to bring up to the Brownstone and Cityscape Radio and Brownstone Worldwide Studios none other than Speech of Arrested Development. I'm so happy to have you with us here this evening. Welcome.
I can't even tell you how proud I am. I'm just looking at you. I'm beaming. I'm amazed. This woman, this incredible, Black, intellectual, smart, beautiful Paulette, I'm so proud of you. So
I appreciate that, brother. I really do. Yeah. So listen, I asked you to come on because I knew I could not do a hip hop issue without talking to Speech Thomas from Arrested Development. Listen, the biggest thing that I definitely want to ask is, number one, did you think that you would still be a part of something so amazing after all of these years?
Back in the day, I think probably not. I think you never know how long this is going to go. And first of all, I didn't even know if we would make it for sure.
Yeah.
I knew that we had the talent. I knew that we were a group to be reckoned with. And I knew that we had something special. But the truth is, I've seen a lot of groups, a lot of come and go that had something special and did not get the opportunities that we have. So I'd be lying if I thought that, 32 years later, 33 years later, really more like 35 years later, we would still be touring as heavily as we are and doing as well as we are. But that was in the very beginnings. When I did feel like probably after our first album really started to do well, we started pulling up at shows and there was lines around the block, and I'm not figurative, I'm being literal. For us alone, like just for our show, I then that this is a phenom. This is something that's beyond what it's exactly what I would have prayed for. And you well know, you were on this particular show.
Yep.
We did a show in Milwaukee at what was then called the Marcus Amphitheater, I think it was called then. And we were the headliners, 20,000 seats, in my hometown, which I was born and raised in.
Yeah.
They had taken a private jet to get to this show because we had a show earlier that day in Denver, Colorado. Day. And point being, there was a point when I realized, oh, this is a thing. Like this probably will be, something that I'll be doing decades from now. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. So it hit you and it was like, okay. So during that time, and this, it seems so interesting to talk about it now that we're older and we have families and children that are adults. During that time, did you ever think, here's the other question, did you ever think that your name and what you have created with Arrested Development would be something where when people see you or hear your name or talk of you would resonate so deeply with people even now today? Because it does.
Well, thank you. I'm glad. Um, again, I think it's similar. I didn't know it at first.
Mm-hmm.
Grateful that it does. And
Right.
I'm so happy that the music connected in a way that decades later people still know that it was important.
Yep.
And to be honest, I think juxtaposing our music to a lot of what hip hop ended up being made our music even more relevant.
Right.
So, and that's something I definitely did not, uh, you know, think was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's been an amazing journey.
Mm-hmm.
I've had fans, meet me and cry. And it's
Wow.
not because like I'm Michael Jackson or something. It's because the music meant something in such a particular way.
Yeah.
And I think what we did was so unique, and especially in this particular genre of hip hop, that,
Mm-hmm.
there was a heart and soul that was present that just wasn't, in every single hip hop release. So,
I agree.
it
Yeah.
definitely moves people in a certain kind of way. And our
Mm-hmm.
shows, even to this day, are they're a musical experience, but they also, to some extent, is a spiritual experience for a lot of
Quite so. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
people.
Yep, absolutely. And I have to agree, not because I was there, but because I was there. And I did see it, I did experience it myself. But listen, knowing that and knowing where hip hop is today, as opposed to, you know, what hip hop culture was when we were in college and we were in our early 20s, and the Africa medallion and wearing the eclectic clothing, which you still do. People think that that's an act. No, it's not. So when you think about where hip hop is today, um, how do you think, or where does your head go when you hear it? And I'm going to give you something that Cool DJ Red Alert said. He said, well, we just going to have to learn to come in there and accept it, number one. And we're going to have to guide and teach. Would you say that you're in that same vein when it comes to hip hop, where it is currently, as opposed to when you were, and still do talk about, you're still thirsty and taking care of people every day and those kinds of things, right? So when you're hearing where hip hop is today, where sometimes I'm confused, Speech, I'm just going to keep it real with you. I don't know. Like my son has tried to share with me songs today and I don't understand. Where's your head on that?
I think by and large, and there are exceptions,
Yeah.
hip hop has been hijacked
Mm.
from a people's movement that was motored and engined by DJs who really care about the culture of hip, by MCs that care about the culture, by beatboxers, graffiti artists, breakdancers that care about the culture of hip hop.
Mm.
And it has been hijacked by corporations who strictly want to make money
Yeah.
and uphold the white supremacist systemic um, benefits that they enjoy. So, in other,
Wow.
there are corporations that feel more comfortable with us fitting the image that they are used to us. They're used to promoting about us. The image
Mm-hmm.
of being hypersexualized
Yeah.
Jezebel, image
Mm-hmm.
being hyper violent and untrustworthy human beings, the
Mm-hmm.
image of us being um, slick talking, never serious about anything in particular other than
Mhm.
just talking and sort
Mhm.
of hanging out.
Mhm.
That's the image that they want to promote of Black people. They've been doing that
Mhm.
for hundreds of years. And
Mhm.
so that power has taken over the music by and large. It's what
Mhm.
they really promote, despite that there's many MCs, DJs um, that are out there doing deep, reflective, fantastic, inspiring music,
Absolutely.
not choosing those MCs and DJs, and instead they are choosing what I just described, and that fits what they are used to portraying us as. So I do,
Mhm.
I yeah,
So, couple things. I 100% agree with you. However, we have the advent. I'm gonna throw this in here. The advent of social media, and the music industry has changed. Like, I know a lot of people who literally have taken their music directly to the streets, and those are those artists that don't get the play that they deserve, right? And they're on SoundCloud, and they're being completely overlooked because, number one, most A&R departments don't exist, and those that do are literally after the artists that you're talking about. What words of advice would you give those young people, or those folks period, who are looking to take an an unconventional route, and do grassroots? Or do you even think that that's possible even now today?
um, so here's the dilemma: the internet allows it allows you to go grassroots,
Mhm.
put your music out, but
Yeah.
I'm say out in quotes
Mm.
because really allows you to do is throw it up on a platform. The platform will do only but so much
Yeah.
to publicize your music to the wide range of people that's actually on the platform, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
discovery of your music is extremely tough.
Mm.
And unless you go viral,
Yeah.
then it's more likely that sure, you're on a platform that may have a billion people on the platform, but you
Mhm.
reach 100 people
Right.
or people.
Mhm.
Um, that's the dilemma. So it's discovery that's still a very, very big issue.
Mhm.
And the algorithms of most of these platforms are going to congratulate, unfortunately, the same systemic racist imagery that I just described a second ago.
I see.
Congratulate
Mhm.
revolutionary or thought provoking or it
Mhm.
outside of the norm of what we tend to be promoted at.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
that's sort of the bad side. There's a few other bad sides to the streaming industry, and that is there's not a lot of money to be made, and the huge amount of product out there and
Yep.
data being put out on these platforms makes
Mhm.
it hard for any remaining activists that do exist that do care about the music to find all of these artists. So they
Right.
come and they will promote those artists, but it's going to be tough to find all of them because
Mhm.
whereas in the early 90s, late 80s, you had to be signed to some kind of label or at least an independent label in order to even
Right.
get it out. So therefore, DJs find that stuff pretty easily. Nowadays, well, even a well-meaning DJ um, would have to. I mean, you can't scour the internet all your entire life to find.
No, you can't. You can't. That's true.
It's a very tough time, and to be honest, I think it has taken a lot of the power
Mm.
away from the artist, away from those that are true activists in this movement. So I know that this is all doom and gloom. I'm not trying to say that.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, because you got my head spinning. I love this. Go ahead.
There is positive aspects to social media, but
Yeah.
I don't want to overplay the positive aspects. I do think there is a lot of negative realities to social media as
Right.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the main people that get paid from our participation on these platforms are
Mm-hmm.
not us. And
Mm.
the
Woo.
is we're sort of giving away our product, and including myself, most of us are giving away our product for free.
Yeah.
And even biggest, like if I'm going to mention a Drake or a Kanye or Eminem, they've changed what constitutes a sale from someone actually going and buying your record, which is what
Right.
you sell, to now a certain amount of streams, so on and so forth. So they've changed the definitions of things.
Yeah.
The, where it's similar to our food industry, where
Mhm.
we used to think, well, a strawberry comes from the dirt and you eat it, it comes from God or the universe.
Right.
And now a strawberry could be any number of things. It could be created in a laboratory.
Right.
It says organic, it may be organic, but it may not be organic. They've changed the definitions, and that's
Mm.
really scary. So the industry has followed that same, mode of operation.
That's crazy. And I have to go here. So you are correct. So I put out an album to your point. And so for those of you all who are watching this and going to be catching the replay, I put out an album. I don't know, it's been about 10 years ago or so, a little bit. No, it's actually been longer than that. And when the product came out, even now to this day, I think per song when it plays, it's like 0.00017 or some crazy number like that. And it can be played like, here's the truth. My last royalty for that album, for the 10 songs, it was $26.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your royalty that you got was better than most people get. So in other words, on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, or I'm sorry, on Spotify or the like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
0.00009, and you'd mentioned 0.00017, which is
Yeah.
better. Where what people should be getting is dollars per song. For instance,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're getting a percentage of a penny, not a penny.
Jeez, that's crazy.
It's definitely, I have a lyric on. We're about to drop an album
Mm-hmm.
next year, top of next year. Our single will be this year. And one of my lyrics is that Steve Jobs single-handedly crushed the industry. And what
Gee.
that is, I just want to give an example to your viewers and listeners. When the industry was at a better place, and it still was exploitative and oppressive
Mm-hmm.
then,
Mm-hmm.
but when it was at a better place, you would get, generally speaking, about 12% off of every dollar, 12 cents
Mm-hmm.
dollar
Mm-hmm.
that sold. If your record was sold for $20, then you got $1.20 or $2.40, whatever that is, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when Steve and then to give you some more examples, your distribution company, which their job was back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
was to get your record from the record label and put it in semi trucks and literally take it to all the record stores that existed across the United States and the world.
Right. Yep.
They would go to your local record store where you are at. They would go to my local record store. They drop off, I don't know, 50 copies or whatever they
Yeah.
agree. And they would only get 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Your managers got 10% to 15 to 20%. I say all of that to say nowadays, Apple or iMusic,
Mm-hmm.
one of the many platforms, gets 30% of any record you drop. And let me say it this way. They didn't do anything. All they did was supply the platform. They didn't grab your record, distribute it to any record stores. They don't promote it. They don't do anything, and they get 30%. They get more than what a manager generally gets. And generally, managers is to control and direct your entire career. They get 10% more than the average manager gets. Some managers only get 10%, so they get 20% more than the average manager for doing absolutely nothing. So that's why they crushed the industry. Now the record labels still make money because they made a deal with Spotify, with iMusic, and so on and so forth, to even allow them to have their content. And I say that in quotes because it's really not their content, it's my content.
Yes, there you go. Right, right.
So it has been exploitative for decades, but it's gotten more exploitative with
Yeah.
the advent of these huge social media platforms. And Steve Jobs is responsible for that alone.
Oh my. Wow. Wow. And you know what? You're bringing up an excellent point. So when you have someone who wants to take their music and not so much take it off of the platform, here's the one thing that I always tell people, even now. One of the things that I didn't do was what you're talking about or what you've done, even with your website, because one of the things that you do is you actually have a website and it's adtheband.com, right? And so we can go there and we can literally listen to your product right there. We can download it, we can purchase it and download it.
Yeah.
And check out the other projects and other things that you all have going on, see where your tours are, contact you guys directly for any other communication, whatever, right? And so would you say now that it would behoove artists to go the route that you've gone? Because this isn't your first rodeo down this path. You've had this website for years.
Yeah.
And not only that, but Vagabond Productions and, your other platforms. And so now it's kind of like you have to take control of everything that you do. Would you say that, number one, that's one of the biggest reasons why you decided to do it, outside of the fact that, yeah, your stuff is still on Spotify and all of these other places, but it's a great way to redirect people to find you in other places? That's one. But then number two, as an artist who makes their living loosely, right? Makes their living off of this, artists have had to become very, very creative in creating other streams of revenue for themselves. Say for instance, merch, or, I know Rick Ross actually, and, big shout out to him, what he does. I know he has a mastermind group, right? And he charges a fee for people to join it per annum. And so there are all of these different things that people do to continue to attenuate their income. What would you say has been some of the things that you guys have had to do? Because I'm certain that you've seen a decrease in the amount of resources that have come from streaming. Am I correct?
So yeah, you're 100% correct. There is not only a decrease, it's almost as if it doesn't exist with streaming.
Wow.
You can find online a viral clip of Snoop talking about, I don't know where the money is from streaming. And he's, you could find online an interview with Pharrell, who had at the time the #1 song in the world. It was Happy at the time.
It was Happy, yeah.
And him getting a $15,000 check
Jesus.
for billions of streams at the time, right? And so let me say first, and again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to keep it. I want us to understand the severity of where we're at.
Right.
Your listeners, your viewers. So the severity is that, yes, we do. Arrested Development has done what many artists do. We have started a website. We have our music on that website. But all of it, everything we've done, from having our website to Spotify to Tidal to Apple Music and so on and so forth, is all from a place of powerlessness. Powerlessness. Because in truth, we are musicians, we're artists. We are responsible to do the product. So we fulfilled our obligation as our relationship to our fans. We do the product. We put it out there. Constraints that I mentioned from corporations and Steve Jobs and these huge platforms. Our obligation leaves us still with a nil result. And that's Rick Ross, it's Kanye, it doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
They're not making money, and I mean that in quotes. They're not making huge money from their streams, right? So what you just mentioned is now we have to go into diversifying.
Yeah.
Another way of saying, okay, they stripped us of our power here. So in order to survive, we have to go here, 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 and here. We have to now create 5 different means to make a living off of what we were supposed to be making a living off of one particular way of making a living.
Wow.
So, really a position of powerlessness. And the reason I bring it up is because if they can keep doing that to us, so they did it to us with music.
Mhm.
If they do that to us with our means of making a living with jobs, just
Yeah.
meaning work, whatever your work is, they can,
Yeah.
if they do that to us with the things that we all need to survive, which is clean air, water, food to survive. These
Mhm.
that we can accept it and say, you know what, we'll hustle in a different ways, and that's fine. And I think artists should do that. So let me just
Yeah.
make sure I say
Of
that. But
course. Of course.
it's still from a position of powerlessness. So we ultimately got to, as a people, as a collective, fight back. Ultimately,
Mhm.
say, wait a minute, I'm a musician and I just created an album. And if people actually like it, it should be able to make me a living.
Right.
And so that we've allowed that to just not even be a conversation in this day and age.
Mm.
And we now are having to diversify. So people are selling liquors, they're selling clothing products, they're selling this and that. Sure, some of those people have become billionaires, like Rihanna, or
Right.
Jay-Z, or a few others, Kanye West, obviously. But as usual, they use those very few amount of people that are able to actually succeed in that in a huge way.
Yeah.
They sort of dangle that in front of us as the large majority of the planet Earth, and
Mm.
they can make it, you can too. And the truth of the matter is that's not very realistic, nor is it true. So I
Mhm.
think that we ultimately have to fight against the way that this structure is forcing us to diversify. But in
Mhm.
the meantime, we do have to survive. I do too,
Yep.
and we have to do what we have to do. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping what I'm trying to communicate is this balance of doing what we have to do, but also realizing that we are in an exploited position, in a
Yeah.
power position at this
Mm.
point.
My goodness. Woo. Wow, this is heavy. This is really wow. Like yo, cuz listen, like what you're talking about, let me put my professional hat back on. I just say yo, okay, hang on. So listen, you have made me think of all of the reasons why so many people are discouraged when it comes to presenting any type of creative work,
Yeah,
right? And now here comes the advent of AI and hip hop artists being on projects that they don't know anything about, right? So don't be surprised, Speech, if you find yourself on a project, you're like, well, wait a minute, I wasn't there, I didn't do that. And so you've got that to contend with. How do you protect your voice if you don't own your masters? Or how do you protect your voice regardless?
yeah,
Because there are now all of these pieces of technology that can take just this, but this, and this baby right here has made me some money.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
With commercials and voiceovers and things of that nature, right? So being in radio all of these years. And so to consider the fact that I can duplicate myself
yeah.
using AI, that's another concern. And so, where are your rights in that? And so, you're bringing up so many different things. And then now you have people that are on social media, and Facebook has people monetized, and then they monetize them really well for several months, and then they yank it back, and it makes you work harder. And all of a sudden, you're on another treadmill. It's just virtual.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, my thoughts about AI,
Yeah.
that obviously it has a lot of powerful uses.
Mm-hmm.
And I have friends that use it effectively to make websites, to even to communicate on emails, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
do all types of things. And I understand that power. And yet I am weary of, number one, who is monetizing off of the AI the
Mm.
most.
Yeah.
They are again going to change the laws on all of us as average people, as to what is monetizable,
Mm.
where is the value point. Like, you know do you have rights to your image? At this point, we don't already, right? Because every
Yeah.
time, for years now on these social platforms, we've been confirming, yeah, this is my face. you know we're only helping them to develop the ability to use our faces and recognize our faces
Yep.
and do numerous things that we're usually not abreast of, and we're signing off on it when we click on, I agree. Whenever you use any app or platform, we're all having to, well, at least I don't. I have I have a feeling that 99.9% of people are not reading these contracts,
No. Mm-mm.
and it's even a dishonest way to present a contract, because what they're basically saying, as opposed to what a real contract negotiation is, where you're able to negotiate. If me
Yeah.
and you contract, I'm able to negotiate the terms. I'm not able to, and none of us, 99% of us, are not able to negotiate the terms of what they're even asking us to sign. So when we get on it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's saying, if you want to reach anybody in this world via the virtual world and social media web world, you're going to say agree. And if you disagree, you're just not part of the conversation. You're not
Oh,
part of
wow.
the network. But
That's heavy.
you don't get a chance to negotiate. You don't get a
No.
chance to do things on your own terms per se.
Mm-hmm.
I respect what Talib Kweli and Mos Def, who's now called, gosh, I'm having a brain fart, but he changed his name, so I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wish us to do that. Um, him and Talib Kweli have the Black Star record, which they purposely did not put on Apple Music, at least for quite a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. Instead, they put it on Bandcamp, which is, by the way, a great tool for us artists.
Right.
When I say great, it's relative to the other tools that we have at our disposal. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
it's so much fairer than anything else, but in a relative sense, it is a great tool. So they put theirs on Bandcamp and they put it on their own platform, and I'm forgetting the name of it right now. But I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was um, it was a move in the right direction, in the sense of, we know that we have value as artists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not going to sell as many units. We're not going to reach as many people, but somebody has to take a stand and say, I'm not going to put it on these mainstream platforms who
Right.
are quitting us, and I'm at least going to try to keep this within my own defined area of dignity as an artist. And I respect that. We didn't do that. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
they did better than us.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't. I respect them for doing it, and I think artists should consider that as a choice. It really depends where they are financially and what they have to try to accomplish. But
Right.
that is a choice.
Wow. That is crazy.
Their
Boy, you
platform,
have. Go ahead.
I think maybe their platform is called Luminary or something like that. So
Thank
people
you.
could.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this, let me just say, now all of a sudden, I'm going to be looking at all of these social media platforms that I'm on and looking at everything side eye, and not in a bad way, because it does have its benefits. And I definitely will say the algorithm runs things. Sometimes I think, ultimately that, Meta is still trying to figure it out. It's confused. And I think on both platforms, all of the platforms that they currently are running, Threads, Instagram, all of them, 1 minute you're up, the next you're down. And what's really scary about that, I'm going to also put this out here. So shout out to you for doing this early on, because I recall you having a website for years. This isn't new, y'all. I need y'all to know Speech has had a website for Arrested Development for years. Is that I think people misunderstand the fact, especially hip hop artists themselves, that you have to meet your audience on these platforms, when in reality, you need to be like the Pied Piper and get them off of the platform and onto your list.
That's
So
right.
that you can better nurture your audience and build a relationship with them that way. Now, with you guys touring and all of the things that you're doing, would you say that has helped, outside of the fact that you're Arrested Development, your speech from Arrested Development, and I'm sure your phone rings, right? Would you say that having this external platform that is your own has helped you?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
It helped us to be able to define for our fans who we are, what we are about, what we're doing. But I will say touring has become, and this is for most artists, has become the number one way for us to do numerous things, to connect with our fans,
Mm-hmm.
to inform our fans about what we're trying to do, what we're up to,
Mm-hmm.
and also to sell our merchandise, to sell our music even, and to make money. So
Yeah.
these five things are touring has become that main thing, um, that main conduit to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But what we used to be able to do is make money as we were asleep, you know. So in other words,
Right.
there was a time when if your records are selling in Japan and there's literal units being taken off the truck and into the record store, and then someone is walking to that record store and buying it, that we were asleep and making money.
Mm.
That's not happening as much now. We have to get up and get on the road and tour. It has its pluses, but it also has its minuses, especially as you get older. And let's say you have some children and you have a wife and you have a home and you're wanting to slow down. You know,
Right.
I remember seeing James Brown before he passed, and he's one of my favorite artists of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say he was in his 70s and 80s. We were touring with him. And I said to myself, I guess I was in my 40s at that time. I'll be 55, you know, October 25th. So, uh,
Okay.
um, but at that time I was in my 40s, and I said to myself, you know, I don't want to tour when I'm that old, because I saw my mother and my father work to the bone in
Mm-hmm.
the 80s. Like my father just passed this year in April,
Right. Yeah.
and he was 86 years old, and he worked pretty much up until his death. My mother is alive, thank God, and she's 84. She still goes to work every day.
Wow.
So I say that to say I personally don't want to do music till I die on stage.
Right.
I want to do what the original purpose of music was, is that if we supply a great product to our fan base, that
Absolutely.
they can buy that. What we used to do is buy it, look at it, study it, you know,
Yep.
serial while we're listening to a full record,
Right. Right.
try and understand the mindset that these artists were,
Mm-hmm.
and just enjoying that musical experience. I still feel like that is fair. I think that is a great interaction. And if someone wants to tour, God bless them. But if they
Mm-hmm.
tour, God bless them as well. And I think that we deserve that dignity as musicians.
I love that. And I dig the fact that you're actually saying that, because the hard part is that a lot of people don't get that opportunity, and
Yeah.
most don't make it. I said earlier, I interviewed the Force MDs, and unfortunately, even though they're still together, one of the members in the original album cover that I owned as a girl, he's the only one alive. And so the rest of them didn't get this opportunity to get to this point. And he's forever grateful. His brother joined, and then his nephew is also part of the group, right? And they're still moving and grooving and doing their thing. And so it comes down to, I'm going to ask this question. Do you think that for a lot of people who are in the entertainment industry and even in hip hop, that it would behoove some folks to possibly to consider, especially with the way that things are? Oh gosh, I'm going to say this. You know, you ever heard your parents say, I know my mother told me this, you know, if you go out on that road and you do that singing, I need you to always have a plan B. Is that something that we should be talking about as well? Because I did get a plan B. I did. I did.
Yeah, I do think that that's something all artists should do. And it's for choices.
Yeah.
So it's not saying that that's fair. Like Force of D, for instance, is a juggernaut of a group
Mm.
that did so many first, you know, in hip hop, whether it be mixing this, they were the sort of the original Drakes to me, because
Yes.
they mixed singing on the same album as rapping. They were trendsetters. They were extremely talented, and
Mm-hmm.
loved them. I got so much from Force and
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I think unfortunately, if we want choices to determine for ourselves how we want to um, navigate our lives, then
Mm-hmm.
because the industry is so exploitative, we'll have to decide to do a few other things, have a plan B, whether
Yep.
it's education and get a job in this area, or whether it's a trade, or whether it's business, or whatever you're going to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
I do suggest people do that. And it's not, it's mainly just in order for you to keep your dignity and to keep your personal empowerment to be able to decide what you want.
Mhm.
And I mean, listen, for me, I do a lot of things. You know, a lot of these things because you
Right.
know. But for years now, when my father started a corn roasting business in Summerfest, which is the biggest music festival in the world, but it happens in Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
which you know, but some people may not be aware of that. And my father started a corn stand there, decades ago. When he got too old to take it over, I could have let it go.
Yeah.
But my belief is that no, this was a viable business opportunity.
Mhm.
Was started by my father, that I'm his son. I'm already a star at this point. Like, my group is selling 4 million albums. We're touring the world. We're making our own money, but I still
Mhm.
go because it's an ancestral business,
Yeah.
a legacy business that has proven successful, that can make me another source of income. And I say me, meaning me, myself, my
Of
family,
course.
the people that I want to help in my
Yeah.
life, the circles of influence. So yeah, I did not want to let that go. It did mean more work for me, but it was worth it. It still is worth it. And we still do it every single year.
Mhm.
So grateful to my queen, Yolanda,
Yeah.
who is smart, intelligent, capable of doing a lot of that business so that I can go tour at the same time. So we're able to sort of divide and conquer. But that's one of our sources of income. Other sources of income that I've had to do is I do speaking engagements, and
Mhm.
I go and speak for corporations and things of this nature. And that's relatively recent, but I do that as well. And so over the years, I've done numerous things as plan Bs to make sure that I'm able to make some choices with my life, and I'm not just
Mhm.
because of a lack of income and a lack of choice.
I love that. I love that. And see, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate the honesty and the candor, right? Because a lot of people could get on here and not just you, but everybody kind of, not so much have had the same stories, but when we're talking about 50 years of hip hop, you have your ebbs and flows of what your career was like, and then life kept life in.
Yep.
We get married, we have children. I'm a grandmother. Let's
Yep.
talk about that. Okay. Let's talk about the fact that we're gray now, and our bodies are doing things that they never did before. And so we're changing and the world is changing. And so for you to be honest and transparent about that, I appreciate you for that, honestly.
Thank you.
And to at least keep it real and keep it 100 with people, because I think people have this misconception that everybody is eating bonbons in the
Yeah.
middle of all of this, and that's absolutely not the case. You know what I mean? So it's a constant effort to do what's necessary. And it brings me to a point that one of the brothers from the original Violators said, and he was concerned about the lack of medical support and mental health support for hip hop artists as they age, as we are entering a different phase of our lives. And so as you are an entrepreneur, those are things that you yourself have to cover. Am I right?
That's actually right. I was just sick this year. I'm sorry if you weren't
Mhm. No,
question.
go ahead. Go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah, I was sick this year, very sick. I was in the hospital. We went on tour in throughout the United Kingdom, right?
Mhm.
Probably 30, 40 dates throughout that area. Very, very like dense, packed tour. All shows sold
Yeah.
out. While I was there, I got really sick and
Mhm.
I went to the hospital. I went to the hospital there. Give you an example. When I finished, I had 3 doctors look at me. I had 10 nurses or so,
Mm.
numerous medications. They kept me there for around 10 hours. I left there and said, "Where do I pay?" And they
Mhm.
said, "Oh, nothing." And I mean zero. That
Wow.
gives you a juxtaposition of what happened. Unfortunately, I got sick again about a week or two later, but it was
Mhm.
the United States. I had to go. I had to be rushed to the emergency room. I
Mhm.
got to the emergency room. I stayed for about a week, and it was tough. A lot of blood transfusion stuff, a lot of things that I had
Mhm.
to go through,
Mhm.
and the bill was around 70 odd $1,000.
My goodness.
So I say that to give, number one, the juxtaposition between a system that believes in healthcare for their people and a system that
Mm.
for free. I mean, and
Yeah.
so I just want to tell everybody, your listeners and viewers, politics do matter. When people say, voting doesn't change anything, it depends what barometer you're looking at or what measurement you're using. If you're using, because a lot of us as Black people often say, well, what has changed for Black people since this president or that president or
Mhm.
this or that era? And if you want to use that as the measurement, sure, you can use it. But meanwhile, there's numerous things that do affect all of us, Black people especially.
Mhm.
If you vote, you at least have an opportunity to change some of these things, because
Right.
politics are happening whether you're aware of it or not. And it does affect all of us, whether we're aware of it or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you can get sick and lose whatever savings you may have had, or
Yeah.
lose the stability that you may have had as an
Mhm.
artist. So
Mhm.
it's very real, especially in the United States. I do support candidates that fight for health care for people in this
Right.
country. I've seen it.
Mhm.
UK, I just use that as one example. In Japan, it was the same difference when I've gotten sick there. And I've been touring for 31 years, so I don't get sick often. But
Right. Right.
times when I've gotten sick over this 30 years, and it was free again or very little. And a few other places as well. I just say that to say it can totally take you out.
Mm.
Yeah, if you get sick, and
Yeah.
not only literally take you out, but
Right.
financially.
Financially, and that was something we definitely talked about, and we can look at some of the artists that it has impacted. I look at Black Rob and others who became deathly ill and lost everything in the process, and ended up in such a desperate situation that there are GoFundMe accounts. And I think one of the things that we talked about when I spoke with the group was, is this something that the hip hop generation, the old heads or whatever you want to call them, should definitely be talking about?
Yeah.
Should, you know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, I sat there and I was, looking at this legend on my screen, right? Like, this is Cool DJ Red Alert.
Yeah.
And he, according to what he said, I believe he said he was 67.
Okay.
So when we're talking about that, the originators
Yeah.
are aging out,
Yeah.
or they've already passed on. And if they are beginning to age out, what does that look like? And even for those who have not, what about mental health? What about any kind of health care?
Yeah.
Right? And how do we, as a community of artists, start having these conversations? And what does that look like to get some kind of support out there? Or am I a dreamer?
No, you're not a dreamer, and if you are, that's to be commended. I think dreaming is excellent. So let me say to your listeners and viewers, there is a hip, and I want to applaud Curtis Blow,
Yeah.
Harris One, Chuck
Mm-hmm.
D,
Mm-hmm.
out to me about the Hip Hop Alliance.
Mm.
So the Hip Hop Alliance, you can go look it up on Google for the viewers and listeners now, is a tool for hip hop artists to gain support financially when they get sick or when they
Okay.
retire, so on and so forth. These are
Mm-hmm.
many other genres that are primarily led by white artists are doing as well.
Mm.
Let me say that these things are positive. We should do them.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to also say this is also from a place of powerlessness,
Mm.
because we all pay taxes.
Yeah.
We pay taxes as soon as we get a check. We pay taxes again as soon as we buy something. We pay taxes on our property if we own property. We pay
Yep.
tax in all of these ways. And these things should be, and this is back to the politics of it, should be the dignity that we're talking about for older
Mm-hmm.
artists, and forget just artists, for older Americans,
Yep.
be afforded us for all the taxes that we pay. And
Yep.
that's that's when, you know, socialist types of programs
Mhm.
could provide for our citizens, which it does in other countries. So I just want to
Yeah.
say that, you know, there's things we need to fight for politically. And in the meantime, there is some practicals that people can do. One other choice I would suggest is knowing that the system is that exploitative towards artists and just citizens in
Right.
general, is to go ahead and plan for that. So when you're younger as an artist and when you're probably making most of your money,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and start stashing things away, and whether it's 401ks or whatever you're going to use, annuities of different types, start stashing away for those years when you know you might have a medical, you know, emergency, or you may, you know, want to retire, or you may have to
Mm-hmm.
start
Mm-hmm.
stashing stuff away. Because I'll say I didn't do that as early as I wish I would have.
Mm.
And I do think that that's another sort of response that you can have towards the exploitation that unfortunately citizens.
Right, right. I love it. Oh my God, we could just go on and on and on. You are an amazing guest. I will say that. Thank you so much for your time. I could go on and on and on because this is I feel like we've just touched the tip of the iceberg on this conversation. And to know that there is something out there that is being formulated. I would love to learn more about it as you guys go along so that, you know, we can share that with viewers, readers, subscribers, and listeners as things happen. I think it is utterly important. I know that you've got a life outside of talking to me, however,
well,
right?
well, as I've told you, Paulette, I when you asked me to do this, like my birthday is tomorrow, literally. I'm in
Wow,
a mode. I'm not touring right now.
good.
I wouldn't have done this for anybody, but I did it for you because I love you.
I
You
love
mean,
you too, man.
and I'm serious when I say this. I'm not just sending you platitudes for the heck of it.
Yeah,
I always have. I've always been proud of you. I'm
thank
proud of
you.
you are, what you stand for, and what you do. Your platform is important, and the content, especially from us as Black creators, needs to be able to be on Black platforms, and we need to be able to express ourselves on these platforms so that you all have a chance to disseminate it as much as possible, but also
Absolutely.
keep it in the history, the annals of history, but on your platform. So,
Absolutely. I love it.
love you.
Thank
I always
you. Yeah.
credit women in so many different ways. So, it's an honor to do this, and I only would have done this.
Well, I appreciate that. I love you too. And you know, hugs. Even though we really y'all, I mean, quiet as it's kept, you probably what 30 minutes from me. I don't think you're 30 minutes from me, but big shout out to you, chilling and hanging out with us tonight. This has been great. Listen, stick around for about 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Give me 3 minutes after we're done here. But I do want to thank you for coming out, hanging out with us. Guys, this is Speech from Arrested Development. Once again, you can head over to his social media and it's at Speech. Am I correct?
Underscore underscore at speech underscore underscore.
Underscore underscore. So see, I'm glad I said that before I actually put it up here, right? Because there'd have been an issue. All right. I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So we're going to share where you can find him at Speech underscore underscore. That's where you can find him on social media, as well as adtheband.com. You guys, this has been a special edition of Brownstone's Best Business Review, the hip hop edition for 50 years of hip hop. And before we go, Speech, I've been asking every single guest this month one question before we go. When did you fall in love with hip hop?
When I was probably, I want to say I was in sixth grade, late 70s, and
Mm-hmm.
it was Rapper's Delight. I heard that record by the Sugar Hill Gang, who is actually on our last album for the F and Love, uh,
Mm-hmm.
last song on our just previous album, and honored to work with them. And I heard that record, and it forever changed my viewpoint of music, and of course, it changed my life because I knew I wanted to rap at that
Mm-hmm.
point. I knew I wanted to be involved with hip hop culture. So it was Rapper's Delight. I fell in love. And then I think what helped cement my love for hip hop was the second record I remember, and that was Grandmaster Flash, Adventures on the Wheels of Steel.
Mm.
Sugar, shout out to Sylvia Rohn and
Yeah.
just Robinson, I should say, who started that whole movement.
Mm-hmm.
That those two records solidified the culture of hip hop to me. So Rapper's Delight out of it, and the Grandmaster Flash Adventures on the Wheels of Steel was the turntablist side of it. I became a DJ after that.
Yeah.
I adored these two records. They were revolutionary. It taught me that, wow, this is a new medium where we have a chance to almost speak our concerns, our thoughts, our love, our passion, our joy,
Mm-hmm.
and put it on record. And it could be way longer than 3 minutes, which was sort of the norm for sort of Motown era.
Mm-hmm.
I think that record, the Rapper's Delight, was probably 11 minutes, 8, 9, 10 minutes
It was
long.
ridiculous.
And it just taught me so much about what is possible. And
Yeah.
obviously, the rest of the planet. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was my first.
I love it. Thank you so much once again. Speech, we love you here at the Brownstone. We appreciate your support, sir. Like I said, stick around. You guys, don't forget to get your copy of Brownstone Living magazine. Go ahead and subscribe for that digital copy, or you can get the print version. It's completely up to you. Head on over to brownstoneworldwide.com for more and keep up with us throughout your workday at cityscaperadio.com, and go ahead and download that app as well. Listen, Speech, we appreciate you once again. You guys, keep it locked right here to Brownstone Worldwide for more news, information, and updates on what's happening for the rest of the year. We'll see you around.